Today I want to talk about visual displays of data. This is Jeff Beaudry, and the topic of quantitative descriptive statistics concentrates on how we take raw numbers and percents and convert them into visual displays like line graphs, bar graphs, and pie charts. What I want to talk about first is the fact that we do want to have raw numbers, but we would like to also interpret or show those numbers as a visual display so that we can see the patterns of the data more quickly and we can increase audience comprehension. When we want to look at visual displays, we can use line graphs, bar graphs, stacked bars, pie charts, and area graphs. One of the things I don't have to tell you is the sources of data. There are reports that are issued on an annual basis by associations. There are surveys that are administered by the government on an annual basis. There are the test scores for our students, which we would like to display and would like to see the variations and the patterns. So there are no end of data sources. One of the reasons why we're emphasizing the visual displays of data is so that we can really tackle some of the data sources that we do have. From my perspective, we're swimming in data. We need to find things that can help us grasp this, understand, interpret data, and move on. We need to turn to some technology tools and software to help us with this task of creating visual displays of data. Many of you already know how to manipulate data using Excel spreadsheets. That's a great way. Some of you might even have access to more refined and more powerful statistical packages like SPSS, the Statistical Package for Social Sciences, or SAS. And some of you might be using some of these very quick, downloadable and free links on the web, these little tools like the National Center for Education Statistics Create-A-Graph tool, which we'll be demonstrating in just a moment. I've gone ahead and entered the URL for the NCES Create-A-Graph tool. This is a free, usable web-based tool, and once you enter the data, that is the numbers, you can convert those numbers into a bar graph, a line graph, what they call an area chart, a pie chart, and the XY graphic. On the NCES Create-A-Graph website, there are help screens, there's a graph tutorial to help you put together your graph, and some examples. Let me just point to some examples and we can see how these are put together, and then I'll do an example. First of all, you have an example from a couple of different fields. We'll look at a line graph called the U.S. Public School Student Membership. And the example of the line graph comes up, and you have these tabs so that you can design and prepare your graph and then view it and then save it as a PDF file or as a document file. So that's a very nice set of tools to remember. So if we take a look at this graph, what we have here is a source of data from the National Center for Education Statistics that shows the year that the data was collected from 1990 to 2000 in one-year increments. And in each one of those data points, and these data points in this are called items, we have entered a different value. So the value is the percent, the scale over here, and you can manage the minimum and the maximum, and you have a different data point for each one. Now that's a good beginning. We used the example from Create-A-Graph to show you how to develop a visual display. Now let's move on to the data that you would like to use and you would like to display. We'll do that in our next program.